Today I just wanted to take the time to do some example solves. So that was probably the best solve so far. Okay, yeah, I got it. So, hey, that was cool, okay. I'm Aquamelon, and this is my Gearquest. Today is June 1st, 2026, and I have not made an episode of Gearquest in quite a while. So my initial excuse was that the last time I filmed one of these, immediately after I had to start practicing for a competition, so I needed to practice basically every puzzle except for Gearcube, because Gearcube was not one of the events. I ended up doing pretty well in the competition. It had a few unofficial events, so I came in 8th place in FTO, and I made it to the final round of Pyraminx, so that was a lot of fun. After that, hectic stuff happened at work, and then life happened, so I didn't have the energy to make a video. And then after that, I got just a little bit distracted by other puzzles. Like, I got distracted by Domino Cube. I practiced some 4x4 to 2x2 reduction. Obviously, I practiced Megaminx a bunch. Yeah, see, I have my Yoo-Hoo with my personal color scheme. And most recently, I started practicing Killaminx, and that's been a lot of fun. But in the meantime, I have still been practicing Gearcube. I think I'm a little bit faster now. I'm still not like very fast. I'm not. If I had to guess, I probably average, like in total, I probably average only like 1 second faster. So now I average like 8 seconds instead of 9. But I have been casually getting like a lot of sub 5 times. So yeah, today I just wanted to take the time to do some example solves and like show what my thought processes are. My plan is to first show some solves like step by step, and then I'm gonna do some solves where I try to predict the whole thing, like not as a speed solve, but just like just see how far I could go into the solve while predicting it. And then finally, at the end, I might do some speed solves. Now anyway, all of these are going to be like hand scrambles, right? But I will say, I figured out I don't think it makes a difference whether it's a hand scramble or not, because on CS Timer, I got my PB recently, and the scramble was just this. It was just one turn. So I really don't think that it matters whether it's a hand scramble or not. The time I got was 1.15, because I still don't know how cubers like pick up the cube so fast. Like, a majority of the solve was me picking up the cube, and then it was the turn and then putting it down. Like, I don't get how 2x2 solvers pick up the cube like in a fraction of a second. It makes no sense to me. But anyway, so yeah, let's just scramble this up. Just gonna do some random moves to it. Okay. Oh wow. Okay. So this is an interesting first scramble. It's looks like we got lines already built, and the edges are oriented, which is kind of funny. Even the middle line is also built. It's not the most lucky scramble ever, as I've literally just said. I got a 1-move scramble once, but this is still really lucky. Okay, so I don't know if R3 prime would be better, or if double anti-corkscrew or double scarecrow or whatever you want to call it would be better. So let's just try both, okay? Yeah, so let's go like that, and then okay, so in that case, the double scarecrow is better. Because look, if I were to do it the other way, then I would have had to do an R3 for that last turn, but instead I just had to do a U prime. So that's the first solve. Okay, for our second solve. Okay, so I'm seeing a couple of different ways I could make a line. Okay, I think this line is better because, so once I orient this edge to make a line, then these two lines will already be parallel to each other. So like that. Okay, now, so it'll be like, oh, okay, no, that was wrong. So my thought process was that like if we just cancel into it, then we could skip a step, but either way we had to do a U prime or a U first. So I guess we could just do that, and that's the solve. Okay. I see here I have these two corners and these two corners where I could form an X, and then I have this middle line, right? But if I do form the X, then I end up with the middle line being permuted the wrong way. So I could go R prime, U2, R2 to make the X line, and then just rotate. And then here I have this algorithm, and I think, let me see if I could predict it after that point. No, I can't. I'm still not good at predicting the equator. Okay, so for this we just do this algorithm, and then that's solved, except I turned it poorly and ended up with, okay, okay, so this is a case I'm familiar with when it's like 2/3 of a line and then there's like a missing corner. Like that's something I'm pretty familiar with. In this case, it looks like kind of the worst variation of it, where the corner is completely diagonal from the other one. So in that case, we're just gonna ignore what I said, and we're gonna go with this line instead, because I'm seeing right here, we have this edge, which is ready to be put into the right spot oriented with this corner. So all we need to do is, I suppose, I don't think we necessarily need to do a D2 prime, but that's what makes the most sense in my head. So I'm just gonna do that. Okay, and then after that, it looks like we have the lines that are across from each other like this. So we'll just do a U to get that there. This middle line will be in the incorrect spot if we do an R3 prime. So what we'll do is we'll just do R prime. If we do U2 prime here, then we'll end up with a completed layer on the side, and then R prime. I'll be honest, this is turning out to be more of an exercise for me because I made some mistakes. So it looks like I could make another X line by going, I think, U2 prime, sorry, no, I keep saying, I just realized I said U2 at one point when I meant U. Okay, so I think we could go U prime, is that an R2? Yeah, an R2, in order to make this X line. And then I actually could predict from here we're gonna have a corkscrew after that. So we'll set up for that at the next move. We'll set up for that with a U prime, I suppose. Okay, it looks like an anti-corkscrew actually. And then boom. Okay. Okay, so in this scramble it looks like the X is already created. So we're not going to do line method here, we're just going to do X method. Okay, so yeah, I guess I could solve this first, and then let's do a U prime to set up to the edges being oriented. So U prime, and then we go another U prime. And then that sets up to this case, which is a triple corkscrew. So this scramble looks similar to the other one. Like, it looks similar to the other one where you could set up this edge to go into here. And it looks like when I do that, I'm also setting up for an X. So yeah, let's just go U prime R, and then it sets up to this case. Wait, could I have skipped there? No, I couldn't have, okay. So my intuition was correct there. Okay. Okay, this is another solve where the X is already made. I'm gonna see if I could do this case first, and then hopefully set up to an easy finish with the double corkscrew. Yes. So that was probably the best solve so far, but it was also a fairly lucky scramble. Okay, so this is a common line case I see where it's like the corners are diagonal from each other and the edge is in the middle. For that, you would hold it, you know, if you hold it from here, it would be an F3. If you hold it from here, it would be an R3. Okay. And then after that, we ended up with this. So yeah, we ended up with this case, which if we were to do an R prime, would go straight into X line. So we could create the middle line from here. But I think for this solution, it'll be better to just do an X line into corkscrew. So for that, we would go R prime, U, and then corkscrew. And then it looks like we have a long solution for the equator. Okay, so I'm gonna try to predict far into this. So just like the other solve we had before, I could create a line with an R4, and then that yellow center will end up back to where it started. So to make the middle line after that, you would need to go U prime. So it'd be R4, Y prime, U prime. And then, because the edge is oriented like this, it'll end up orienting the cube with an R, orienting the line with an R, but it would also be permuted the wrong way. So we would need to do an R prime and then a U2, okay. So, oh wait, I just went back on literally what I just said 2 seconds ago, but either way, I predicted basically all the way until that U prime at the end. I just didn't execute it properly. I have this line, which is literally just an F prime. And then I have this broken middle line, which I think, no, I think I'm better off creating the line after that. So it'd be an F prime and then a U2. Okay. So F prime. And then I didn't really talk through that solve, but I mean, I think it was a relatively okay example solve anyway. Okay, so the only line I see for this scramble is if we were to do from this angle, we would do like a U prime, or a U move to get these two corners diagonal from the edge, and then we could just insert it with like an R2 or an R2 prime. In this case, I believe we insert it with an R2 prime. Okay, so, yep. And then after that, we have a middle line. In order to solve it, we would need to not cancel into the algorithm, but we would need to go straight from solving the x into solving the x method algorithm. So in this case, it's this algorithm. And then, okay, so this is similar to a case I wanted to mention earlier, but I couldn't. So the case I was mentioning was this one, where it's like, where you have like part of a line, but not the end of it. So the case that I got for the scramble is basically that same case, except one turn away. So it's the same execution, except instead of an R, I'm about to say it's an R2. So in order to solve a case like this, it would be R and then a U move and then R prime, I think. But in this case, it would be R2 to start the algorithm off. Okay. So let's try tracing these edges. So kind of cut it out, but I was looking at it for a long time and it was hard for me to track them properly. But either way, so after that first move, this edge will end up here, and then it'll end up, after the U move, it'll end up here. So it'll be right next to this edge. So then at that point, if we do a U prime during the creation of the line, then we could get this yellow center over to here, because it'll end up back here and then it'll go over here. So I'll admit I kind of cheated to figure that out, because I took a very long time just staring at the cube and stuff like that. But that's the type of thing that I would need to know in order to look ahead far into the solve. And then after that we have, we'll end up with this edge being in the wrong, or sorry, these two edges being in the wrong spot. So we could just go like, so we could go R U2 prime to permute them properly, and then we have this. All right, so for this scramble, we have basically the same case as last time, with the corners the corners diagonal from each other. So we could solve that like with like RU2, sorry, RU prime R prime. It's so hard for me to get gear cube notation correctly. But during that time, these edges don't get misoriented or anything. So let's trace these edges for real this time, because I messed up on the last solve. So doing the R, we'll move this up here, and then the U prime will move it here, and then the R prime won't move it at all. So that'll end up with this edge and this edge will be parallel, but they'll be parallel from this angle. So like this edge will end up here, if that makes sense. My hands are kind of blocking it, but you get the idea. And during that time, we'll move this center over to here. I think, hang on, let me see what, I think to solve the cube, we're gonna need to, from this angle, we'll need to do like an R move. Or wait, no, it'll be an R prime, because, okay, yeah, I got it. So, hey, that was cool, okay. So, that was sort of my way of predicting it, and what I was figuring out at the end there, which I didn't explain, was I was thinking of which direction the middle line would have to move in order to get it to be solved. Okay. And then we just solve the gear. We just twist the gears by doing R moves at the end there. Okay. Okay, so I see a pretty easy line here, which would be, I mean, again, I often use B moves and D moves and stuff because I'm pretty 3x3 brained, but you don't really have to do that for Gear Cube. But either way, I see if we do B R prime, then we'll end up with a green line down here, and the white center will end up right above the green line. And then let's try to trace these edges too while we're at it, because that's what we've been doing the past couple of solves. So with a B, this edge will end up here and it will end up oriented. Wait, will it? No, it won't, because it's a B, so it'll end up here misoriented. And so will this one. And then, okay, I see. So this edge will move to here and it'll be twisted the other way. Like, it'll still be misoriented, but it'll be twisted the other way. And then they'll be across from each other like this until I do the R prime, and then they'll end up diagonal from each other. Which means that I would just need a U to make the middle line. And then if they're twisted the other way, that would mean that doing an R would solve the edge. But I also can't predict the corners from here because I'm not smart enough to do that right now. Okay, but I can predict how to make the middle line. Okay, so it looks like if I just did the R move, I would have ended up with a solved layer. But I didn't know that because I didn't predict the corners. So anyway, and then that solves the cube. I don't know how many of these example solves I did. I know that a lot of them were, a lot of them kind of sucked, so I might not even include it in the video. But I think I'm going to do one or two more of these solves where I try to predict as far into the solve as possible. And then after that, I might do a few time solves. Okay, so it looks like with this solve, all you need to do is just B prime, and then you end up with a solved middle line and a line. So that's very lucky. So for this solved middle line, once I have it solved, I think I would need to do U R2 to get it into the correct spot and oriented. Okay, and it looks like there, if I did a U prime instead of a U, then my equator solution would have also been better. Okay, one more. I know I said one more solve, but I think I'm gonna do one more after that because that one was really easy. Okay, what do we got here? We have, oh, this is an easy solution because I have this edge needs to go here, like to make a line, right? But, oh wait, I also could create, not only could I create a line, but the center will be in the correct spot, so I just have an X on orange too. Oh, you can't see it, okay. So the edge will be in the correct spot, but I have the center in the correct spot, so it'll make an X. So in order to do that, I think I need to do an R2 from here? Yeah, an R2, okay. And then from there, I'll have this edge. This edge needs to go into the back here. So that's just a regular corkscrew, okay. So, and then, so that I kind of executed it slowly there, but I predicted all the way up until the equator at the end. All right, so let's do a quick average of 5 on Gearcube. Again, I'm gonna try to talk through it as much as I can, and I'm gonna try to solve as much as possible. I'm gonna try to predict as much as possible during inspection in each solve. Here, I'm just gonna pull up CS Timer just to be. I know I said earlier that the scrambles don't have to be generated, but I feel more at ease when they are generated, if that makes sense. Okay. All right, so first scramble, I mean, I kind of knew this from what the scramble looked like on CS Timer, but I would have seen it anyway, which is these two corners opposite each other, this edge ready to be oriented. And just so you know, if the edge were twisted like this, it would be the same solution, except I would go like the other way. But it's not like that, so let's just put that back like the way it was. So that creates yellow line, and this yellow center goes here, this edge goes down here. So I needed to do a U prime to get the middle line created, and then an R prime would actually solve the middle line. Okay, so I know all the way up until equator. Oh, never mind. I messed up, but that was still a 4-second solve. Okay. Okay, next scramble. Oh wait, I should probably mention that was a 417. Okay, 417. I'll calculate all my times at the end, and in editing I'll put the average of 5 on screen. Okay, so 417 for the first solve. Okay, second solve. Second solve is actually, it looks like I have a case that I didn't even get to mention in the example solve, so this is good, which is the daisy method. When you have an X formed, and then you have all the wrong edges. So the edges that are supposed to go in the opposite layer are all in this layer. And for that, you basically just, like the way I learned it, and I think the more intuitive way of knowing it, is you just insert these edge pairs with R2s. But to me, it's kind of like creating a line twice in one solve. We need to do like a U or a U prime in order to get these edges ready to go in. And same with these ones. Both of them have the same like permutation where once we do those moves, then it'll be good. Okay. Oh wait. Yeah, okay. That could have been faster. That was a 627. I was doubting myself there. If I didn't fumble that last bit, I could have probably gotten sub 5 again. Okay, what do we got here? It looks like we could cancel into corkscrew in order to make this X line. Or sorry, anti-corkscrew rather. And then after that we have this case. Okay, that's pretty easy. $6.16. Okay, 6.16. Okay, so I have 2 more solves left in the average of 5. Okay, so it looks like I have an easy X here. I think I might actually end up with a daisy. So I would do F and then R prime, U prime, R2. Okay, and then 795 for that solve. 795, okay. Okay, so it looks like we have kind of like a fake X here, like where all the edges, all the corners are like swapped, so that doesn't really help us at all. Could we do anything from this though? Okay, so I could can make an X on orange. Sorry, I can make a line on orange using the R4 algorithm. And then if I do a U from there, then I create a middle line. And then I just need to do an R3, okay. Wait, and is it a U? Yeah, it is a U I need to do. $7.21, okay. So I think that's it for the average of 5. If not, I'm just gonna do one more solve for good measure. Okay, so R prime, U prime, R creates a line on orange. If we were to trace that edge, it would create a middle line by doing U prime. Or wait, no, it wouldn't because we're looking at the orange edges. We need, okay, so it would be a U from there would create a middle line. And then, okay. $5.97, okay. That wasn't part of the average of 5, but I think it was still a pretty good solve. Okay, so yeah, that's my first Gearcube solves in like a very long time. Or not, no, sorry, no. That wasn't my first Gearcube solves in a very long time. That was like my first time filming my Gearcube solves in a very long time. And I'm going to do more pretty soon. And I think I'm on a pretty good track right now because, again, I can't predict entire solves, but you saw, like, for each of these solves, I predicted, like, basically all the way until, like, the last couple of moves for each one. And more good news, and I wanted to make sure I filmed this before it happened, is that the Magnetic Gearcube by Chi is going to come out later this month. So I'm really excited for that. But I think that's all I have to say for this video. Sorry if I wasn't as energetic or coherent in it. It was just very hard to explain what I was looking at for each solve, but I feel like it went well. So thanks for watching.